Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How have you been? We're so excited to be here. I'm back all the way from the Holy Land and from the March on Washington. But we're so excited because we're back with all hands on deck. I'm Reverend Ira Ackery, the CEO of the Austin Empowerment Coalition and the pastor of the Greater St. John Bible Church. And I'm so glad to have with me today one who has been holding it down, one who's been taking care of the business and making the case. It's the great, impeccable businesswoman, radio personality, and community leader, my co-host, Miss Doris Davenport.
Hello, Pastor Ackery. It is such a pleasure to be with you every week here at All Hands on Deck, where we are empowering the marginalized and encouraging the masses to be catalysts for change. We've got a great show for you today. We are so excited about the things we're going to talk about.
It's a phenomenal show. We got a lot planned for you. First of all, me and Doris, we connected, and we both had it in our spirit, no matter all of the stuff that we have on our itinerary that we wanted to cover, at the top, at the very top of our priority is the situation in Houston. The victims of Hurricane Harvey, they are being brutalized and they are going through so much. In fact, 40 inches of rain, a record rainfall. Over 17,000 evacuees are looking for shelter out of their homes. You know, big two thumbs up for the first responders. It's incredible to see that in the midst of, 15 deaths locally and one in the Gulf of Mexico. 15 deaths nevertheless, but it's been a pretty decent job of dealing with all of the havoc that they are facing. It's really a terrible situation.
It's a terrible situation. And, I was doing some research and prep for this, and one of the things that I found was that this Hurricane Harvey, they call it, it's the first big one to hit Texas since 2008.
That's
and
right.
It's the strongest one to hit Texas since Hurricane Carla, which was back in 1961. And even back in 2004, the largest hurricane ever to hit, the last largest hurricane to hit the United States was in 2004, and that was Hurricane Charlie.
Yeah, and here we got, it's just a great devastation we got to deal with. Some estimates have been as low as $10 billion for recovery, but then there's one from Moody's analysts have projected possibly $40 to $50 billion to get this town in southeast Houston recovered.
Yeah, and you can pick up whether you're reading the business reports or you're reading the Financial Times, you'll hear a lot of different takes on what's been happening. And one of the things that we talked about was there's nothing like talking to somebody who's in the midst of a tragedy, right?
Yes.
Somebody who's on the ground. And you have this wonderful idea.
Man, listen, it's I'm just so grateful that this young lady's doing well. Actually, you had the idea of having to come on. But me personally, I've been impacted. I got some relatives. I got an aunt, uncle, and cousins that are in Houston. And by the grace of God, they're doing fine.
Yeah.
And then there's a member of mine that goes to my church. She's now, of course, relocated. She's making big bucks. I know her mom is very proud of her because she, I went to school with her mom, and actually, she has a Bachelor's of Arts from SIU, a Master's from Keller grad school, and she's in the doctoral program, and she's a homeowner in a beautiful little community there in subdivision, and she's kind of stranded, but she's safe right now?
She's safe. And when we think about all of this just unprecedented and catastrophic flooding that's going on, she is on the ground. She's going to be able to give us a first-hand account of what she's experiencing. What I love about her is that she's got an analytical mind. You don't get to get a master's in healthcare information systems and study for your PhD without being observant. And so I'm really interested in getting her take on exactly what's been going on now.
Well, we're going to welcome Keosha White all the way in from Houston, Texas. We're going to turn Doris loose on you, and you're going to bring us up to speed. How are you doing, Keosha?
Hi guys, how are you?
Oh, great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
As well
Thanks.
as can be expected, I'm sure.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah. Why don't you start by just giving us a visual? What is life like for you on a daily basis since you realized that you were not going to be able to pretty much leave your home?
I'm pretty much going through cabin fever right now. I've been pretty much stuck in my home since Friday evening. Only being able to go out to evaluate the water levels that's arising in the nearby you around me. Other than that, we haven't been able to get too far. Like I said, I'm stranded in within my subdivision, so I can just only go and walk a few feet. I can't go too far.
Wow. And when you say that you can only walk a few feet, when you shared that with us, I went online so that I could see some actual pictures of what that looks like. And I saw an aerial view of the area, literally every single street leading from the subdivisions and leading from private homes are flooded. Every street is flooded.
That's correct. Yeah. Every street is flooded and pretty much all the highways are flooded. So we can't get anywhere at this moment unless you have like a boat or a kayak of some sort that can help you navigate the waters.
Kiosha, what are you doing for food?
Luckily, I was able to prepare before the hurricane hit. So we were able to get a bunch of non-perishable items, and we still have power, luckily. So we're still doing well.
Now I have a question now. You're from Chicago, and
Yes.
you're not used to this. And they told you to prepare, get you some non-perishable items. Now, did you really envision this would happen where you would be stranded inside of your house? I think now it's what, 4 days? How long have you been there?
Yeah, this is day four. Yeah. No, this is not something that I thought would come out of this at all. I definitely thought that it was going to hit us and then leave, but it actually hit hovered over the Houston area, and it dropped a massive amount of rain in a short amount of time. And it's just been really frustrating. It's been scary for us, with power going in and out, and us trying to figure out, who is the resources that we should contact in case we need an emergency.
Well, listen, we are so excited that you took the time out of your schedule to call in because, we still love you at Greater St. John, but we also wanted to talk to you and allow Chicago to kind of get a close-up view of somebody who's just a wonderful person, educated, articulate, and working hard every day. How are your neighbors? How are your neighbors getting along? How is it out there?
It is chaotic, I can say. That we have neighbors who are running out of food, who are trying their best, trying to navigate the waters to get to any grocery store that may be open. We have security that's trying to come around the neighborhood to make sure that for the homes that have evacuated, they're making sure that no one is breaking into their homes and stealing their items. It's really crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah,
And
Kiosha,
we're
you mentioned evacuation. So there was not a mandatory evacuation order issued. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so what happens? You said you're on right now day four. And for those of you that are watching, the picture that you see on the screen is the picture of the beautiful Kiosha, who we're talking to in Texas, on the ground in the midst of this unprecedented hurricane flooding left by Hurricane Harvey. So how many days did you prepare for?
I only really prepared for 5 days. So after tomorrow, we may have to go out and try to find some food as well
And how long do you think, if you've already begun to experience cabin fever, how long do you really think, if you've kind of been able to assess your own constitution, how long do you think you'll be able to last before you reach out for help? Was it a one-time opportunity to get local assistance to evacuate, or will that offer come again?
The offer would definitely come again. They have some shelters set up nearby, and they've been coming by pretty frequently, just making sure that everyone is okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I need them, I can definitely reach out to them.
And how long do you think you'll last?
I'm hoping I can hang in there.
Yeah, because
But
it
like I
really
said,
isn't
once
so
we run out of
straightforward,
food,
right? You've got
yeah,
flooding, it's still
yeah,
raining,
yeah.
and we've heard there's some reservoirs that have been open, but that's causing some other problems.
Yeah, that's definitely causing some more flooding issues in those neighborhoods with the release of the reservoirs. But honestly, I probably will have maybe about 2 more days before I may need to just leave the home.
Kiosha, we have the phones are ringing off the hook. I want to ask you, we cannot really, on this particular show, tell people where to donate, but what are some of the things that we can donate, or what are some of the resources that are greatly needed?
We are definitely in need of water. Bottled have a
Water,
huge shortage of that, yes. Along with clothes of
water
all
and
sizes,
clothes.
Mm-hmm.
yes. And
Water and
definitely
clothing.
any non-perishable food. They can donate any sanitary products or towels to help people clean up. Any of that, anything that you would do on a daily basis,
Sure.
pretty much.
Right. I know you mentioned those for women. Women always need sanitary products. So that's towels. Those of you who are
Yeah,
listening, non-perishable foods,
yeah.
and of course we have to think about the children. So when you think
Mm-hmm.
about clothing, it's clothing for adults and all ages of children, truly all sizes. And I'm sure baby formula and baby food is probably another item that's highly needed along with the water.
Kiosha, we thank you so much for your time, and you know you're going to hear from me and your Greater St. John family back here in
Hey,
Chicago.
before we let her go, let's see if this caller has a question for
Sure.
her.
Caller, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, caller. You got a
Yes,
comment
good
or a
evening.
question?
Yes, good evening.
Speak up, sir.
Since you're a man of the cloth, I wanted to know. Now, this is not an either or, but 100% either way. Is this caused by what the people say and been saying on climate change, or since you're a man of the cloth, is this an act by our Lord Jesus Christ? What would you say to that? Now, it's not
Thank you for the
half
question. We're
and half.
going to try to respond to you, but you can listen to it off air.
Can you repeat the question? I didn't
Yeah,
get it.
what he's asking whether it's an either or what the opinion is of the hosts and the caller, whether this is an act of he said a religious act, or if this is an act of climate change. My
Oh,
first response would be, no one knows. That's not
perfect
something.
response.
That's not something that any of us have a PhD or expertise level in. People have different opinions about that,
Sure.
and some believe it's climate change, some believe it's natural disaster, some believe it's human intended, caused by humans and the things, our own activities in the world, that even causes some of the climate changes that some people say are the results of many of these torrential weather fluctuations that we're having. So it's a good question. Thank you so much for
Very,
asking
very
that.
good question.
But Kiosha, again, Pastor Ackrey was just signing you off, and we thank you so much for calling in. We hope we can call you again maybe next week and get an update from you.
Of course, no problem. And thank you guys for having me.
All right, take care, Kiosha White. Thank you so much for your participation today. And we'll be praying and doing more than just praying. We want to put some feet to our prayers.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
All right. So
That was really something.
powerful.
I mean, it's powerful. There's nothing like a living testimony. We can talk about the reports all we want, but to be able to hear from somebody who's right there on the ground experiencing. I mean,
Sure.
can you imagine being holed up? I remember in 2000 when they thought all of the technology systems would go down.
Right.
And everybody, I was one. I went to the grocery store and I stocked up, didn't know what was going to happen. I remember the lines in the grocery store were so long.
I don't know why I didn't respond like that. I guess I must have been strong in my faith then than I am now, because I said, the Lord is going to take care of me.
And I felt the same way, but I said, He's going to take care of me today by making sure there's enough food
He's
on
going
that
to
shelf.
provide
So
the way.
that,
I got you. Good comeback. Good comeback.
yeah.
So I want to say something about how we can help. The Leaders Network, we're in the process of trying to plan a way wherein people can give locally. We have not figured out how we're going to do it, but we're certainly going to do it at some point, and we're going to raise some resources and all of that for people in Houston.
So you all keep up with us on Facebook, because we'll be letting you know how we'll get that started.
All right, we got a caller. Welcome to the show. You're on All Hands on Deck with Ira and Doris.
Yeah, good evening, good people. How are you?
Doing well, man. Welcome back.
Thank you. The thing I want to say, first of all, is that it speaks to both of your hearts that you're reaching out and that you're putting acts in motion to help the people in Houston. I think that's fantastic, and that speaks to the God spirit in you.
And I appreciate that.
No problem. But with that being said, thank you, ma'am. But with that being said, we it's a state of emergency in Houston, but guess what? It's a state of emergency here in Chicago. Now, this weekend is the Labor Day weekend, and we know, based on history of the last 5 years, but anywhere between 40 to 50 people will be shot, and several people will be
You
murdered.
have a question, sir?
I do, and here's my question, ma'am. My question is this. What can we do to get a state of emergency declared in Chicago to stop the deaths of black and brown people, even if
Okay.
it's by our own hands?
Thank you very much for the question. We appreciate it.
Well, let me just say something. I appreciate your your compliment, I guess. But the reality is, here in Chicago, we have been we've been major advocates demanding resources, demanding that a state of emergency be declared here in our city and in our state by the governor, by the mayor, by the president of the United States. That has not happened. But nevertheless, this is an urban community. We will still continue to advocate, and we will continue to still fight for equitable funding in schools, equal opportunity for South Siders, West Siders, just like they have on the North Side. But by the same token, we will not be narrow and only see our own issues, and then we won't have any allies in other places. There's an old saying that when they came for the Jews, it wasn't me, so I didn't participate. They came for the labor unions. Since I wasn't part of the labor unions, I didn't get involved. Then they came for this group and that group. Because it wasn't me, I didn't get involved. But then when they came for me, there was nobody to help me.
That's
We don't want
right.
to be like that.
Yeah.
Thank you
that's
for your
right.
comment. Appreciate it.
That's right. Thank you so much. That was a good response. It's funny how sometimes you get people who call and they give you a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
And then you come back around the corner.
Man, I thought I've been getting beat up, as a pastor so long, to just get a compliment every once in a while from somebody other than my mama.
And you know what?
And it was backhanded. But thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Speaking of getting beat up, there's a young man in the news who's been in the news for quite some time, and he is really taking a beating. Both, he was taking a beating on the field, but now he's taking a beating professionally. Let's talk about young Kaepernick.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick,
Yes, he is really, really getting a bad rap.
my hero. I think we talked about it earlier. And Colin Kaepernick, he is in good company with people who have taken their position of power, influence, or notoriety and use it for the common good of all. He's in good company with Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, Tupac Shakur, and Kanye West. These people spoke up for causes greater than just themselves.
Making sacrifices, personal sacrifices.
That's what it's all about. And the one thing about Colin Kaepernick is this. When you look at all of those other names, these are mega stars.
Yeah,
These are
yes.
superstars,
Yes.
celebrities that the industry wouldn't hardly even think about writing them off. But so when this guy, who's a decent player, kind of marginal player, when he sacrifices, they just write him off. They blackball him. They put him on the blacklist. And so to some extent, he makes a greater sacrifice than any of them,
Yeah.
because he did not have the star power or the status that they had.
That's right, because they had the opportunity. Even Muhammad Ali, who went to jail,
Sure.
had such a following because
Oh,
of his
my
stardom that he could come back and start over or pick up where he left off and still have another career ahead of him.
Doris, you gotta make me stay focused. You gotta make us stay focused. That we would, from time to time, do a Colin Kaepernick check-in.
Yes,
Because,
we will, because it's tied to so many other things.
It
And
is.
You asked the question the other day about the link. We're hearing so much about white supremacy in light of
Sure.
Charlottesville, but you know, when you think about Colin Kaepernick's fight, it is directly tied to white supremacy. Here's
said it.
a young man who cannot get signed to a team. When I look at the Bears' former quarterback, who just signed a multi-million, I think it was a $10 million deal, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a very short-term contract.
Yes.
For him to get $10 million, and you talk about
He came out of retirement.
He came out of retirement, and he's basically, in my view, a below-average quarterback. But
Absolutely.
for him to be able to get a $10 million contract, and for Colin Kaepernick not even to get calls to come in and interview, I just think it reeks of what we saw happening in Charlottesville.
And he's still on the sideline. And
Yeah.
NFL, I hope they feel the pressure.
Yeah, but I think that one of the things it has done, and you know, we say your gifts make a way for you,
Sure.
make room for you. He's been giving to nonprofit organizations around the country with the money that he has saved up. Thank goodness he's been a good steward of his own money. And I do believe that the one of the impacts we're going to see as a result of his sacrifice is that come election day, we're going to find a lot of people being impacted, and they're going to take that pain and anger and frustration that he's experiencing right to the ballot box.
And those of you that are watching this show today, I want you to do me a favor and make sure that you investigate, do your research on the Colin Kaepernick situation. Because I believe, and the Lord told me this when I was in the Holy Land on Mount Olive, that Colin Kaepernick is a gift to the African American community. And he's also, believe it or not, as controversial as it seems, he's a gift to America, because it's going to be him that's going to force us to have some real substantive conversations about race relations in America.
I think you're right about that. And Pastor Acri, just speaking about your trip, you just returned from a 10-day study trip in Israel. We don't have time to go into the details of your trip, but give us a brief statement of where your head is upon your return.
Listen, it's amazing. It was an amazing trip. I look forward to talking with you about it, Doris. The first time I went to Israel, it was 4 years ago, and it was amazing. It was simply an out-of-body experience. But I saw it all from a spiritual lens, but this time I went back having a second view. I still saw it from a spiritual lens, because that lens is always operable. But I did some microcosm. I did some zeroing in, and I looked at it from the political realities, and I've discovered that these are real people with real challenges, with real issues, and I'd love to talk about how we can all be impacted as African Americans by the struggles of the Jews and the parallels that we share. It was tremendous, and I look forward to talking to you about it. It's been great, Doris. It's all over. I mean, what does the time go? They should give us 2 hours.
Here we are, empowering the marginalized and giving the masses the courage to be catalysts for change.
And thank you so much. We'll be right back here next week trying to make a difference. And until then, we'll keep all hands
On deck.
on deck.
Thank you.
See you next week.